Have you ever been to the tropics on vacation and you decided to go snorkeling or scuba diving? And while you're out there and you look down, you see the most beautiful colors ever? Well, you've probably seen corals or coral reefs. Now, corals, they can vary in different sizes and colors. They can be about the size of a dime to as big as an iPhone. And they range in colors from like the brightest greens to the darkest reds. Now, today I'll be talking about the effects of corals, coral bleaching, and the benefits of corals. Now, corals do more for us than you think. In 2019, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, they did a study on coral reefs and how they help us. Now, what they found out was they act as natural barriers for storm surges and erosion. So what this means is whenever a big wave comes by, the coral reefs will act as a buffer to slow down the momentum of that wave. Now, Andrew Krafowski, he wrote an article called Why Corals Are Important for the Ecosystem, and he basically went over how they are really good for the water. They recycle nutrients, they recycle nutrients in the water column, and they actually make the water clearer. So if you ever go on vacation in the tropics, most of the time whenever you're in the water, it is very clear, and that's because the corals are out here cleaning up the water, taking out all the bad particles, and just making nicer water for us to swim in and for the fish to live in. Now, without corals or coral reefs, there's going to be a lot more pollution on our beaches and just in our ocean. So they won't be able to cycle that much or recycle all those nutrients, and actually it'll just get dirtied up on our beach. Now, corals, they can't do everything they can for us if they're dying out. Now, when they die out, this is called coral bleaching. So what this basically does is the coral will spew out all its basically insides, and it'll just come out of its skin and excrete it back into the water. So what happens now is all their colorful pigment is now gone. There's nothing inside, and it's just a white skeleton, therefore bleaching. Now, Lauren Hancock in 2023, she did a study and she wrote an article about it. It's called Everything You Need to Know About Coral Bleaching and How We Can Stop It. Now, what she studied was that a 2-degree increase in the temperature, it actually causes the bleaching cycle for these corals. Now, it doesn't take that much to kill them. So, actually you went over a 2-degree difference, that's all it takes. Now, for an example here, I do have corals in my tank right now. I'm sorry it's dark, so the light's not on, and they're starting to shrink up, but we do have some green star polyps. It's right here, and now you can see it. And there's a coral tree right back here. There it is. Now, so what they're doing is, for example, if this was a polyp, they're closing and opening their hands in and out, and that cleans up the nutrients. Or they'll take in the nutrients and they'll excrete whatever they need to do to make the water clearer. Now, they can't do that if they're dead. Also, the Australian Marine Conservation Society in 2020, they also did a study confirming that carbon pollution is one of the leading causes. Now, carbon pollution leads to climate increases, so climate change. So therefore, confirming the theory with Lauren Hancock, her studies, that climate change is one of the biggest killers. Now, also in Australia, the Great Barrier Reef, I believe it is the largest reef in the world. It has currently lost about 50% of its corals due to coral bleaching. So year after year, we're losing more and more corals, and eventually they all die out. Now, once they're dead, they're very hard to institute back into the ecosystem. So if I were to take one of these corals, fly out to Australia or any other tropic zone, and I try to implant that there, it's going to die out. Well, it's most likely going to die out. It's very hard for them to bounce back, is what I'm saying. Now, like I said earlier, it's small changes. It doesn't take much to throw these guys off their cycle and actually start the bleaching process. Now, one good thing about this is marine conservationists, they have created MPAs, or marine protected areas. Now, what that does is it actually just protects the area. So no fishing, no boating, no nothing. It preserves the area and it keeps it nice and clean. Now, why are corals beneficial to us? The ICRI, or the International Coral Reef Initiative, they did a study in 2020. They found out that corals have medical researches or potential for medical research, and they actually protect and house fish. So, one, they can help us, and two, they actually help the ecosystem out there while helping maintain it. Now, in conclusion, it doesn't take much for coral reefs to die out or any corals at all. Just that 2-degree difference or any slight change in the water can also set it off. And they're significant because they progress research in the medical field. They protect our shorelines from storm surges and erosion, and they feed communities by keeping the fish there in the coral reefs. And that's my video. I hope you learned something.